Excited to get back at it. Bye week is always interesting, and based on where it occurs during the season, you approach them a little bit differently. But we got a really important 3-week push ahead of us in the conference race, starting this week with a very good Indiana State team that I think is coming in here playing their best football of the year. And have demonstrated that with wins the last 2 weeks, including this past week win against North Dakota.
Sweet. And with that, we'll start questions. Alex Koff, go ahead.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
So coming out of this bye week, what are some areas for your team that you're hoping to see some improvement on?
There's really 3 things that we did over the bye week. Number one, some things that we felt that we could clean up from a technical standpoint in all 3 phases of the game. So with our practice times, we worked on that. The second thing was trying to build bodies back up. We had a lot of guys that either coming through that South Dakota State game or over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe we're not at 100%, and so by taking an extra day or 2 off, spend a little bit more time in the training room, the plan was to get those guys all back to a greater level of health, or at least closer to 100%. And then we did, take some of the time in practice to give some of our younger guys, some really important reps in our system. Those are guys that, you may, as you get to this point in time during the season, you may use in situations because of the 3-game or the 4-game redshirt rule over the course of these last 3 regular season games, and making sure that those guys are ready to do that. As far as specific areas, coming out of the South Dakota State game, from an offensive standpoint, if there was one thing that we got to be better at, is red zone efficiency offensively. We had the ball in some scoring opportunities, didn't do a great job of finishing drives, and that's something that we've got to be better at here going forward over the last 3 weeks, starting this week against Indiana State.
And just last one for me, looking towards Indiana State, what have you seen on film specifically from that North Dakota game?
Yeah, I mean, they're a well-coached football team. They play really hard. I think they've improved a lot offensively as the year's gone on. We talk a lot about every week improvement. They're that kind of program, I know, as well. I think, their staff does a great job, and offensively they're a team that's got good balance in their attack right now. Starting with a dual threat quarterback who's run the ball very well and is throwing the ball efficiently. They ran the ball really well against North Dakota on Saturday. Defensively, they're always one of those teams that's going to play great defense. They're going to make it hard for you to run the football. They're not afraid to pressure, and so you have to have good plans to be able to execute against all of those different looks.
So thank you, Coach.
Nathan Zwaffer, go ahead.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
Good, thanks.
You mentioned, as we went into the bye week last week, the importance of those self-scouts. I know you mentioned a few things already. Did you learn anything new about your team that you didn't know before, or was it just some of those things that you mentioned earlier?
You look at self-scout, you try to see what areas you've been most effective at. There's been a lot of areas from an offensive standpoint that have been pretty effective for us, and we've got to try to hang our hat on those things over the last 3 weeks, and some of the things that maybe haven't been as good that you put less emphasis on. You look at things like formation tendencies and those types of things, and how you can get away from maybe some of those tendencies and still accomplish the same things over the last 3 weeks. But that's kind of what the bye week has allowed you to do, is be a little bit from an internal standpoint critical of yourself and identify those areas where we either need to hang our hat more or not do.
You mentioned bad formation tendencies and those habits. What were just some of those specifics that you guys wanted to clean up on?
I'm not gonna put that on air, but there's some things just from a personnel standpoint, those kinds of things that you look at and make sure that it's not that you don't have one play that you only run out of one formation, and we're a multi-formation, multi-personnel football team, and you just got to make sure that you've got good balance out of all of those looks.
With another dual threat quarterback this week, do you look back at that Youngstown State game and kind of take away what you guys were able to do well and what you weren't able to do so well and apply that to this week in a similar scheming plan?
Well, you always look at similar plans, how you defended similar players, and things that were successful and things that maybe weren't. That'll be part of our defensive scheming, this week. Trying to make sure that we're accounting for the quarterback as a runner, whether it's in some of the design run or in some of the scramble situations that he's been pretty effective at. So we'll build our plan around those types of things, understanding that our plan always starts with our ability to play well against the rush.
It's kind of a broad question, but you guys have 3 games left. You still essentially control your own destiny. What's the message to this team heading into the final 3 games?
I think exactly that. There's not many teams that are in a position at this point in time during the season where you can control your own destiny in the conference race, and from that standpoint, it's a 3-week push, and it starts with week 1, and that's this week against Indiana State. We got to be the best possible football team we can be. It's great that we've got a chance to have 2 of those 3 games at home, a place where we've played really well and take a great deal of pride in playing well, and this week obviously is a very important step.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
And Jay Elson, go ahead.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Jay.
Clint Lawrence, obviously a pretty dynamic guy, both on the ground and through the air. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, had 1 of each in that win against North Dakota. I was trying to rack my brain. I don't think you guys saw him last year. I think he was hurt when you guys were there. So just impressions of him, and obviously trying to slow down one of what looks to be, potentially their most dynamic playmaker, at least in both of those categories when you throw it together.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good football player. I think he did play against us last year a little bit. Obviously, they were rolling a couple of backs last year, and he's become the featured back for him this year. But, a guy that, again, as we always talk about game plans and defensive planning, you got to be good against the run in this league. And he's, in combination with the quarterback, been their 2 biggest threats on the ground.
What would you say if you evaluate him specifically at, just from a coaching perspective? Like, what does he do well? What makes him so dynamic?
Yeah, I think he runs with good strength and good vision. They're a zone run team, and they'll mix some gap scheme run in, and he sees things really well. He's physical enough that he can break a tackle, and as demonstrated on Saturday, he's got enough speed that he can turn plays into long plays. They find ways to utilize him in the passing game, both in the screen game and through some of their checkdowns. And he was able to make a big play against North Dakota in the pass game as well.
You look at the Indiana State team. Obviously, they've been down for a bit, but Kurt has shown in the past that he can coach them up and get them to be a very competitive team. There's certainly that right now, coming off a big win for them against a ranked team in North Dakota. So certainly coming in with a little bit more momentum than they've had the last couple times they've come to Vermillion.
Yeah, I think they're coming in off of back-to-back wins, games that they had to fight to the very end and find ways to win, which always helps build your team's confidence level. They've got a bunch of experience on both sides of the football. Been in a lot of close games, even some of the games that they've lost, and in the games that they've won, a lot of those games have gone down to the wire. And so they're a team that's going to battle to the end, and a team that's not going to beat themselves. They've demonstrated that. You're going to have to find ways to move the ball with consistency against them, make some big plays when the opportunities are there, and play great defense against them.
Obviously it was painful to lose the game to South Dakota State, especially the way it happened. And while you have to move on, going straight into the bye week from that, was it a good thing maybe, at least a little bit, to let that simmer a little bit extra time as you get ready for this stretch run that you guys are about to encounter here?
Well, I think the advantage from a physical standpoint is you play a game like that, you're going to have some, and obviously over the course of first half of the conference schedule, you get some guys banged up. You got an opportunity to get some guys back a little bit fresher from a health standpoint, but also there's an emotional take that a game like that has when you lay it all on the line and come up short, and having an extra week allows that to kind of soak through and be in a position where it's behind you now, and understand that everything for us is in front of us, starting with this week.
Talked a couple times about getting guys healthy and using the bye week is certainly part of that in terms of recovery, but specifically Nick Yates, is there an update on Nick? Yeah,
he was, we've got him out running. He's trending really well, and based on where we're at this early in the week, it'd be optimistic with regard to his availability. I think, the other thing is a couple of the guys that we had that were not playing necessarily at full tilt. The extra week's been beneficial for guys like Tice and Gary Bryant and some of those guys that still might have been a little bit limited had we played Saturday. Hopefully in a much better place come this weekend.
All right, thanks, Coach. See you tonight.
Yep. All right, Jay.